Great. All right, good evening, folks. Today we are between the breads making a variety of sandwiches. The first thing we're going to do is demonstrate to have the fish. You have two pieces of mahi-mahi that are in this vacuum sealed package. It's important that as soon as they thaw out, take them out of the vacuum sealed package. And what I did was just basically split them vertically so they're into two. Each of those fillets have two sections to that. To that, we're going to put a marinade on them, and I'm going to start the marinade. So in your kits, you've got all the ingredients fairly well separated out. So for that, we're going to start in the bar blender that you probably have at home. We're going to start with 2 pieces of garlic that are separated out, some chopped red onion, cumin and coriander. Each of them have their own typical color to them. Then put those in there at the same time. And then you have some cilantro that are leaves. So I collect all those items that are on that section of the recipe, put them all on one tray. I'm going to go behind it with some olive oil into that blender, and I'm going to mill some pepper in there religiously because I'm not likely going to salt those fillets while they're cooking. I'm going to have that process done. So then it's a matter of just blending that to puree it. On occasion, because of the type of blender you may have at home, you may need a little water to be able to help move all those ingredients around. So I'm going to add a little bit of water, just plain cold tap water, about 1.5 ounces, the same measure of oil that you had, just to allow that product to move in that blender freely. Now that's a nice marinade for that fish. It's going to have a lot of flavor. And because I added that water, give it a chance. So you're going to have some chunks of garlic and some pieces of onion and some nice leaves of cilantro in there. That's all really good stuff. So that's okay. You want that to just kind of move it around the fish so it has a good shot. Give it at least 15 minutes or so when you're at home, because you have a better shot at that marinade actually getting deep into the cell structure of that fish. And then we're going to pan sear that. Meanwhile, I'm going to start the slaw because it takes a few minutes to cure because the cabbage is raw, and we want to be able to break it down a bit so that it can be softened up a bit. So for that, I have a mayonnaise as the base for that slaw. And then we have some celery seed, Lea Perrins, or some other type of Worcester sauce. We have a little bit of Dijon mustard, spicy brown mustard, some granulated white sugar, and some apple cider vinegar are the main ingredients for that slaw. So with that, I'm just going to take a whisk, any type of whisk. I prefer the soft whisks to be able to do these types of jobs with, only because they tend to be able to break down that mayonnaise a little bit easier to work with than a hard whisk. But either one works. You could use the spatula if you wanted to. So be it. Then you're just going to put a combination of the red cabbage, the white cabbage, and the shredded carrots into the bowl. And we're going to turn that around a little bit so that it has a chance to be able to coat those tender pieces of cabbage. And the reason why we want to do that ahead is so that it does break down and become nice and soft. Otherwise, the cabbage is going to be very crunchy. If you don't do mayonnaise, don't even bother. Everything will work out quite nicely without all the fat from the mayo. Certainly is a nice addition to that fish taco as is. We'll let that rest. And meanwhile, I'm going to come over to the grill. And on that grill, I'm going to take the chicken breast. We have 2 chicken breasts on this grill today. And these chicken breasts are basically just 2 single lobe chicken breasts that we have, lightly oiled, and I put a little bit of milled salt and pepper on them. So that's all we have is these 2 chicken breasts, and I take my fist on a piece of paper, just pound out the top a little bit so that it has similar level or density and thickness than that the tip of the chicken breast does. If you don't have a grill at home, simply put them in the oven to roast them, or you can put them under a low broiler and let the broiler do the job of cooking them all the way to about 165 degrees inside of the thickest part of that chicken. So it's usually going to be up around this section of the chicken breast. If you have a thermometer at home, 165 is the temp we're looking for on all poultry products and or stuffed products. So we're going to let those cook meanwhile. As those are cooking, I'm going to preheat my skillet here on my stovetop just so that I can let those fish cook nicely once they have had the opportunity to marinate. Okay? I'm going to move over here where we had the blender. I'm going to work on the salsa that you have. And for the salsa, we've got chopped red onion. We've got two types of a tomato-like product. One of them is a tomatillo, very popular in the Latin marketplace, kind of a very green, bittery type of tomato. Then we have fresh Roma tomatoes that have been diced. With that, we have lime juice. And we have dry oregano, diced jalapeno, and diced cilantro. Those are going to all go together, blending together. And I'm just going to use a pair of tongs or a spoon or a spatula to blend all that together, and a little oil at the end to be able to give it some flavor. Okay, that's your salsa. I like to do that ahead of time also so that it also has a chance to cure and set up a little bit. This one will probably be best with a little salt and pepper. So we'll mill a little S&P into that salsa, not a lot of salt, but I think a fair amount of pepper would be good. The little heat from the jalapeno, it's not so intense, but you can taste it, opt out or opt in on that jalapeno for your dish there. So I'm going to let that rest for just a moment. Meanwhile, I'm going to start the fish. As if time had gone by and we have elapsed a few minutes of time, we're going to have this fish go into the skillet. And in that skillet, I'm going to put a little oil. Even though we have oil in the marinade, I'm going to put a little more oil in that skillet. You can use the oil that you have from the salsa, which is certainly sufficient enough to be able to perform the task of getting this fish to sear. I don't have a high heat on this skillet. It's a relatively low heat. So the marinade can go into the pan just as easily as it is on the fish. And we should have it start to sizzle. You should hear the sizzle and see some movement of the marinade on the fish as it goes into the skillet, so that we know that we're immediately starting to cook and pan sear the exterior of that fish. This mahi-mahi is caught in the Caribbean, usually in the Gulf waters, south of Florida, very much north of Aruba in South America, but they run in those waters. It's a little bit warmer. It's more of a gamey type of fish. It's a heavier structured fish, and it has a really good flavor. I think it's wonderful for tacos because of its flavor profiles and how dense it is. I think it works out really quite nicely. I'm going to come back over to, going to set up some of these. I'm going to use some of the slaw in the fish taco, and I'm going to use some of the slaw in the presentation for today's dishes. I'm going to use a little bit of slaw as a side dish. I'm going to put that in any kind of cup. A soup cup that you may have at home works out pretty nice. I think that works out well. I'm going to hold those off to the side for when we do set up our presentation. And I'm also going to put salsa in one of these, a little side dish. And that'll be a complement to the fish taco. We're going to put a little bit of the salsa inside the construction of the fish taco, and I like a little on the side just so that there's a little something there to eat to make that special. All right. So the chicken breast should cook to 165. They should have a nice golden color on both sides when they're fully cooked. And that shouldn't take too long based on the application of the heat you may have on your grill. But they should have a nice golden color. But the most important part is cooking them all the way through. If you don't have a thermometer, simply press or penetrate through the thickest part of the breast to see if that meat is bright white and it's got clear juices running through it. That's a good indicator that that fish is properly cooked or that chicken's properly cooked. I think that's an important takeaway. So we're going to build that chicken sandwich here in a moment. My chicken. Jesus Christ. Can you get it to me? And to start that chicken sandwich, we're going to start today with a spinach tortilla. So in your kits, you've got a tortilla. They're 12 inches in diameter. And for that, I'm going to warm it up on the grill. Or you can warm it up in the oven or directly on the stovetop. It's really your decision how you want to be able to do that, how you want to make that work. So I'm going to put this on the sandwich paper. This should be in your bag or your kit that you picked up. If it isn't, then just use a piece of foil or film wrap, whatever you have that you can work with to make that happen. So we're going to warm up the tortilla just enough to be able to make it flexible. And that so that we have the ability for that to have some give, some elasticity to it. And we have in your kit some hummus. You got enough hummus to be able to make 2 of these tortillas. I'm going to spread that hummus on the majority of the tortilla, but my intent and purpose is to make sure I have some of this hummus up here at 12 o'clock on this tortilla so that it serves as an adhesive spread on that tortilla to allow that to stick as I move through the motions. The next thing I'm going to put on there is some spinach. I've taken off some of the leaves or some of the stems of the spinach just because they're not as attractive to look at, but they certainly can stay on there. They have the same nutritional value as do the leaves. Follow behind that with some red bell pepper. Line those up in order. And then I'm going to go in with some thin slices of cucumber. You can line those up nice and attractively so that it has a good visual. While that's working, I'm going to flip over this fish. And the fish, it may or may not stick in your skillet based on what you have at home. These tend to stick a little bit because of the marinade, but they should have a nice golden color on them when we give them a turn. And the fish doesn't take long. That's got to cook to 145 degrees in the middle, or until the fish is flaky. That's probably the best indicator without a thermometer to assure that the fish is properly cooked. The other ingredients I'm going to put on this wrap with the chicken is going to be some thinly sliced red onion. And then I'm going to put a nice variety of herbs. You have spinach, you have chives, cilantro, and parsley as part of the herbs for that particular combination there. The chicken breast, I have one pre-cooked for you to view. And that you can cut into either thin strips or you can cut it into a dice. It really depends on what your preference is. For today, I'm going to cut it into thin strips. The thin strips, I like it to be similar in length and diameter. This is a perfectly cooked chicken breast that it's nice and bright white on the inside. You can see it still has some of the juices in there. If you can get a good shot of that, a close-up, you can see how perfectly cooked that chicken is. It has a nice level of moisture in it. I think we can get closer if we can to see that is fully cooked. And those strips are going to work out well because they're conducive with the shape of the tortilla. So I'm going to cut those half strips into thin strips so that it's easier for us to bite into and it'll have a good finish. Those chickens, you have one chicken breast for each of these wraps, so it serves as a pretty good meal for one of the 2 meal periods that you could probably make out of this fish. Next, I'm going to take this first piece of the bottom part of the tortilla and roll it up to the middle. As this I'm encasing all those ingredients there. Take these 2 sides with your thumb and your index fingers and 3 fingers past to be able to get this to go into as a fold in going toward the center. If you've gone and sat through a Chipotle line pre-COVID, you're able to watch those folks do that, or you can see how to roll a tortilla on any YouTube presentation that's out there. And just simply roll it, and because we had some of that hummus up there toward the top at the crown is the reason why we're able to have that stick, which works out well. Sandwich paper that should be in your bag just simply wraps around in the same fashion as we did the burrito fold, rolling that paper up so that it has a nice presentation and it's also easier for us to eat. I like to fold the tip of that inward so I have a nice clean presentation when I put those on a plate on a menu, if it's on a menu for some restaurant location or a hotel or a conference center. So I have this nice grilled chicken club. That's a done deal. So the fish is ready, and that can be further processed. And for the fish, we're going to have a few items going into that tortilla. So we have a couple of tortillas. I'm going to warm those up also on that char grill, or you can warm them up on a griddle plate on your ovens. You can put them wherever you want to put them just to get some heat on them. Just simply put them in the oven. You can microwave them for a moment or two just to kind of get them soft enough to be pliable, to be able to yield a flexible finish to that. So the fish is finished. It looks nice and tender. Another way to tell that it's cooked is that some of the protein comes out of the fish as it's cooking. And that'll be this white substance that shows up on the fish. I'm not sure if you're getting a good angle on the inside of that skillet to be able to see that protein come out of that fish or not, but that is another very good indicator that the fish is fully cooked. So I'll let those rest off to the side. Meanwhile, the tortillas are warm enough and flexible enough for me to be able to work with. So I'm going to start by putting some slices of avocado in there. And the avocado is a little bit tricky. It can be very dangerous. We gave you a whole avocado. The ripeness of an avocado could be identified by that little calyx, the little stem end. If it wiggles around in the avocado, it's a really good shot that that avocado is fully ripened. Just after you split it around the center, split it and be able to separate the two sides. For each of these tortillas, you really only need half of an avocado, or you can use a quarter or opt out completely. Now this part you want to be very careful, because you're going to take the tip of a paring knife and just get some stripes, some nice slices put into the avocado without touching, going through the skin. And I'm going to use this spoon that I had for the slaw, because we're going to put the slaw in there anyway, and get this avocado to separate right out of the shell. I think everybody's probably worked with avocados at home. Try to spread them out so that they're in line, kind of a linear presentation of those, so that they go from east to west on that dish. Then you're going to put in a little bit of slaw that you had prepared. Piece of fish or two, a little bit of salsa. So it can be a little drippy, so make sure you don't transfer too much of the salsa liquid onto your tortilla. It might very likely make that a little bit wet. Then you're going to put in a piece of fish on top of those, and then some cheese, which is a cheddar jack, to make that fish taco pretty special, is the plan for that. We're going to put these plates together. And those are basically pretty simple presentations for these. I've got the fish taco, really simple. Got a lot of dynamic flavors to it. You could use another sauce on there if you so chose to, but I think the flavor profiles are going to be good between the avocado, the salsa, the little bit of slaw, and all those types of dynamics. So you can roll it like the burrito that we did earlier, leaving one end open if you like, certainly an option, and then piercing that with a pick. Working this tortilla while it's warm, I think, has a huge benefit because it has a little bit more elasticity to it and gives you a better chance of being able to yield the outcome that you want. So to be able to put a pick through those, and they can be eaten very nicely like that as a handheld, but I want to be able to show off the inside of that so we can have a look at that. So I'll present those two resting there with a little bit of salsa on the side to make that dish all that it can be. So that's your fish taco using mahi as the fish. And then for the chicken tortilla, a nice chicken breast, 12-inch spinach flavored tortilla we rolled up with all the ingredients. Simply just take a serrated knife. It's going to work out best to cut right through that so you can see the lovely presentation of all the flavors on the inside, and then having this presented nicely with the side of slaw, which makes for a couple of nice little dishes for you to have for maybe a lunch one day, a dinner one day. Either way, you might want to eat them both. Really depends on what you did today and how much you want to eat. But that's our between the breads. I didn't use breads because they're so typical on all sandwiches and things, and these tend to work out better for transportation situations that we have with our kit pickups. So hopefully you enjoy these two kind of novel sandwiches, and have a good evening. Thanks for being here.